Today's read aloud is Tiny Feet Between the Mountains, written and illustrated by Hannah Cha. Tiny Feet Between the Mountains, written and illustrated by Hannah Cha, published by Simon & Schuster Books for Young Readers. Once upon a time, in a large village between two tall mountains, there was a small child. Her name was Sowen, which means tiny person. When others took 2 steps, she needed to take 4. 1 handful for others meant 3 armfuls for Sowen. But this never stopped her. The people in Sowen's village often competed to see who was the strongest and loudest. They even boasted that they were bigger and more fearless than the spirit tiger rumored to protect the surrounding mountains and forest. Sowen would study the other villagers and complete each task in her own way. "How can someone so tiny keep up?" the villagers would whisper to each other. But still, Sowen refused to give up. One morning, the villagers woke up to find the sky was filled with thick black smoke and red embers. Thunder boomed and echoed between the mountains, and the sun was nowhere to be seen. The chieftain asked for a volunteer to go to the mountain and see what had made the sun disappear. The crowd was silent. When still no one spoke up, Sowen took a deep breath and said, "Sir, I will go." Suddenly the villagers' voices rang out. "You can't even carry my pot. How can you bring back the sun? You will be lost in those woods." Sowen was startled by the outbursts, but then she calmly folded up her sleeves and tightened her braid. The brave little girl knew she had to try. She ran home to pack her pink bojagi full of supplies for her journey. Sowen knew she was close when she reached the part of the forest where the smoke was the thickest, the hissing sparks were the hottest, and the thunder was the loudest. Suddenly, Sowen stopped dead in her tracks. She couldn't believe her eyes. It was the spirit tiger! Sowen took a step back. She had only ever heard stories about the great spirit tiger. She noticed that heavy tears dripped from the tiger's eyes, and his fur was covered in crackling flames. Looking up, she dared to ask, "Great spirit tiger, what is the matter?" "I am the great protector of the mountains and forest, so I wanted to rule the sky too. I chased the sun with all my might, but when I opened my mouth to roar, I accidentally swallowed it. Now the sun is angry and trying to burn me from the inside," the tiger wheezed. "Let me help you," Sowen said. He pulled away. "You are a mere tiny child. What can you do?" The tiger sounded as doubtful as the villagers, but surely he was wrong about her. "I can help," she said. Sowen took out the bottles from her bojagi. She sprinkled the water on his fur, but there were too many fires to put out. Remembering the river, she guided the tiger there, but when they got close, the flames on his fur dried up the water. Sowen tried blanketing the fire with mud instead, but it was no use. "Maybe the villagers and the spirit tiger are right. Maybe there is nothing I can do," Sowen sighed sadly. "I cannot keep up with the flames on the outside." But then Sowen got an idea. She'd been so focused on what was happening on the outside that she'd forgotten the real problem was on the inside. "Spirit tiger, please hold still." Using her pink bojagi to protect her hands from the flames, Sowen climbed up the tiger's tail and onto his back. She crawled through the angry, riled fur. Using her pink bojagi to protect her hands from the flame. Using her pink bojagi to protect her hands from the flames, Sowen climbed up the tiger's tail and onto his back. She crawled through the angry, riled fur, using her tiny hands and feet to tickle the tiger. The spirit tiger began to shake with laughter until smoke filled his nose and... Achoo! Losing her footing, Sowen began to fall. But the tiger caught her small body in his large paw, his eyes twinkling like stars. He roared with delight. "I can't believe it! You did it! Thank you for your help. Come, let me bring you home." Down in the village, Sowen could see the people scrambling and yelling with fear at the sight of the spirit tiger. They suddenly looked very tiny. Sowen climbed off the tiger and beckoned the villagers forward. One by one they came out and listened to Sowen's tale. When she was finished, Sowen introduced the villagers to the spirit tiger. Celebration and cheering erupted as the spirit tiger kissed Sowen on the head. He bestowed a blessing on her and the village before returning to the mountains and forest. From that day forward, the villagers were kinder towards Sowen, and she was known as the greatest of them all. The end. Author's note. Long ago in Korea, tigers were used... The end. Author's note. Long ago in Korea, tigers used to roam freely between the mountains and villages. People would fear the tigers, but at the same time, they saw the tigers as a symbol of respect, strength, and dignity. Tigers constantly appeared in Korean stories and images, sometimes as deities, sometimes as threats. Regardless of their role, tigers always offered a moral and guided the Korean people. Many Koreans believed that their country was shaped like a tiger and that their spirit animals were tigers. Because of colonization, tigers are now extinct in Korea, but their spirit lives on in the strength of the Korean people.